All right. Happy Wednesday, everybody. Today is it is a time for another episode of the Real Estate Investing Club. We got Tom Zeeb with us today from Traction Real Estate Mentors. Tom is an expert at single family wholesaling, and he is here to talk about negotiations. This is one of the most difficult parts or elements of really getting a good deal, making sure that you negotiate correctly. So Tom's here to guide us. Tom, I am super excited to have you on. Thanks for hopping on the show.
Oh, my pleasure. Thanks for having me, Gabe.
Absolutely. I told you before we got on here, we like stories. We like to hear how people got to where they are today. So take us back to the beginning of your story. How'd you get started in real estate?
Oh, I got started underwater.
All right.
Yeah,
that's where a lot of people get started. So there's
underwater. I was underwater, metaphorically, certainly drowning in debt, drowning in a job, drowning in a lot of different things. Then I wound up physically drowning underwater. And on a, I had a day job. I was sick and tired of it. I was unhappy. I was miserable about it. I realized I was in $113,000 worth of debt. I couldn't see a way out. So I did the only logical thing. I jumped on a plane with a bunch of buddies and spent money I didn't have, more on credit cards, and went and did a big adventure trip in India.
Okay.
Yeah. And as one does. And we went whitewater rafting, and I couldn't stay on the raft either. And I wound up underwater and darn near drowned. And during that time that I was unable to breathe, I actually, instead of being more worried about dying, I was just mad. I was angry. I hadn't done anything. All I did was go into debt. And so I swore to myself, things are going to be different. I'm finally going to become the kind of person I want to become. There's an entrepreneur in here. I got to do it. I got to follow it. The thing was, I had no freaking clue how to do it. So I obviously came up out of the water. I got back home. I was still stuck with the job, still stuck with the debt, still stuck with no way forward. But then that all turned around when I read Rich Dad Poor Dad.
Rich Dad Poor Dad. Everybody gets to start with Rich Dad Poor Dad. Love
exactly.
That.
It's amazing.
I mean, I'm the same way. That's how I got started too. So, I mean, that sucks. What did you say? It was $113,000 in debt?
Yeah. I didn't think they were going to give me that big of a raise at work.
Probably not. But I mean, I can totally relate. I was I've been in debt myself. And especially when you don't have the ability or you just don't see a path forward, having that much debt can feel crushing. Like, it just can feel like there absolutely is no way you can get out of it. There's no point in even trying.
I'm not sure mathematically there is. I mean, I missed a couple payments on some of the credit cards, and they raised the rate to 26, 27, 28%. You can't mathematically get out of that.
Yeah, especially if you're in like a W-2 job where you're not going to be seeing a huge increase in your pay rate going forward. So I can relate to that. I'm sure a lot of people listening can relate to how crushing that feels. But you used real estate. You read Rich Dad Poor Dad. That was your way out. So take us from that point. How'd you get to where you are right now?
Well, it wasn't smooth selling at first. I bought a 6-unit building as my first deal. Wanted with a bunch of professional tenants. One of them smashed my sister's head into the wall when she was trying to collect some rent.
So wait, real quick, I'm jumping in. You bought a 6-unit building. That's not, those are generally you can't just go out there and buy it with $116,000 in debt or however much you have. That's quite a bit.
Yeah, except this was over 20 years ago. So all I needed to be able to do was fog a mirror, and they were throwing mortgages at everybody.
Gotcha. Okay.
Gabe, I can't imagine why there was a big meltdown in 08. I might have had something to do with it. They were giving mortgages to unqualified people like me.
Gotcha. Okay. All right. Keep going.
So once as the dust was settling from that, I said, man, all I'm doing is I keep getting my teeth kicked in. There's got to be a better way. And I accidentally wound up wholesaling a property. I had a property under contract that I was going to rehab because I still didn't see any more sophisticated way out. And luckily, another investor walked up to me at a real estate investment association meeting and said, I want to buy that property from you. And he paid me almost 23 grand. Like 22.8 to take it off my hands. I went, well, this is great. So what did I do? I marketed, I negotiated, put it under contract, and that's it. And then I moved on. And I thought, what if I just focus on that? Because I like marketing and I love negotiation. And it was when I really started focusing on negotiation that everything changed. I was just able to do more and more deals. At the beginning, I focused on wholesaling, but over time, I do rehabs, I do buy and hold. Once I got over the scar tissue left from the 6-unit. And it's been great. And so I wound up with, if I negotiate the deal right, I get my choice of exit strategy. I can choose to do any exit strategy, commercial, Airbnb, rehab, buy and hold, wholesale, any of it. The key is making sure you negotiate a great deal.
Yep. Yeah, and I could not agree more. In fact, I think that's the best way to negotiate any deal is thinking that all the strategies have to work. Like I have to be able to wholesale it, I have to be able to buy and hold it, because when you do that, then you have multiple ways to actually exit the deal, and it's you're less likely to let it fall through. So
Yes.
23,000 for your first wholesale, that's actually really good. I feel like the majority of people when they get started in wholesaling, 5,000 is the number that everybody lands on. My first deal, I made 5,000 bucks. Everybody starts at 5,000 and it goes up from there. So I'm sure you were happy with that $23,000 check.
Oh, I was thrilled. Yeah, I tell my students go for a minimum of five. Don't go less than that. And then depending where you are in the country, your average is going to be higher.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I mean, anywhere in the coast, you should be getting a lot more than five. That was just happened to be where I landed. Um, so wholesaling, that's kind of where honed in on. You really like wholesaling because it deals with marketing, it deals with negotiations, and those are the elements that a lot of people struggle with, especially when it comes to negotiations. I know myself, with single family, I like commercial a lot better because it's a little bit, you're dealing with a business owner, but with single family, it's its own ball game. It's much more difficult to negotiate with a single family owner. So take us through your strategy. What do you use? Like, what are your principles, your philosophy when it comes to negotiating with sellers?
Gotcha. I've got a whole slew of techniques of tactics I pull out. I got 52 of them. And so I kind of come in and
52. Wow, man.
yeah, 52 of them. Yeah, it's like playing with a full deck of cards.
Yeah.
And I go and and that's not to scare anyone away. I mean, you learn the 52 and then you kind of understand which order you need to stack them in as you're talking to the person. So I get the conversation going, open them up, kind of, hey, why are you selling? Tell me about the property. And then wherever there's a bit of a soft spot, I keep making a bigger deal out of it. Oh, there's an issue here. How would it feel if you solve that problem? Get them to kind of future pace them. Get them to see the picture once their problem is solved and once they don't have to deal with the property anymore. Or if they tell me there's issues with the property, I hone in on that a little bit more and keep doing things to bring the price down and pulling out some of these different tactics and techniques. And it's amazing. I want there to be a lot of flexibility on the phone first before I go to see a property. Only go see a property if it's worth the time in the car. And that means they've already shown me that they're flexible on the phone.
Okay, interesting. So you're looking for flexibility. And do you find that generally people, when they put out their first price point, is it usually higher than you would purchase it at, you'd get it under contract at?
Yeah, almost always. Their first offer is not uh it's not their minimum.
Yeah.
You have to get in there and work it down to see what the least amount they're going to take is. That's not going to be the first number out of their mouth. Look, most people are not great negotiators at all. Most
Mm-hmm.
people have barely ever negotiated for anything. Because Americans, we don't get a chance. Everything's got a price tag on it. We negotiate for cars, houses, and mattresses. And nobody likes buying a car. You only buy a house a couple times in your life, and probably a mattress as well. Those are the only
Weird
things
that
that
you
don't have,
negotiate
don't have
mattresses.
price
Yeah.
tag.
Okay.
There's not a great opportunity to practice. And
Yeah.
so most people come in unsure, but they seem to know, oh, well, I'll be a little higher in case I have to come down. Well, they're all thinking that. So that going in. So start working the price down.
Yeah, that makes sense. And when you first start talking with the seller, it sounds like you start with the why, which is what a lot of people do. Like, why are you trying to sell? Really understanding where their pain points are. Do you wait for the seller to give you a price first, or do you hear all their whys, all the issues with the property, and then be like, wow, this is the most I can offer it?
It's an excellent question. I will always ask them, how much are you asking for the property? And then no matter what they say, I kind of flinch and make a big deal out of it. Wow, yikes, that much? However, some people, they don't want to answer the question. And that's where I know a lot of people run into issues like, oh, I asked the price, they won't tell me. Well, if they're not going to tell you, so they think they're a little bit negotiation savvy, they don't want to be the first one to say a price because the first one loses, fine, then just go super low. You can
Hmm.
make it a first offer, but make sure it's super low, because the last thing you would want is to make a low offer or an offer you think is low and have them say yes. If they say yes to your first offer, what's the first thought in your head?
I didn't go low enough.
Exactly. I didn't go low enough. And then you'll forever wonder. You're going to lie awake at night wondering how much lower they would have gone.
Yeah.
That's an awful spot to be. So always go a little bit lower than you think because you do not want them saying yes to you on the first offer. You want to see how they react and then let them bring you up. Because when they bring you up to quote unquote their price, then they feel like they won. And that's important to let them feel like they won.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that that kind of the tug and pull of negotiations is always interesting because you're right. If somebody accepts my first offer that I give them, I always wonder like, was that the right offer? And I'm especially with commercial, I'm the guy that kind of tends to do the underwriting, come up with a number in my mind, and just be like, just offer that number because this is what makes sense in terms of our number. And I don't usually go lower than that.
Uh-huh.
But I do feel like it would benefit the negotiation process to start maybe 10% lower than what I come in at so they can go up higher. Because you're right, it is weird that our minds just work that way. If our first offer is accepted, we just think it's a bad deal, regardless of what that offer was. It feels like a bad deal to
It
us.
feels like a bad deal. And Gabe, if you think about it, if you're accepting their first offer, then they're getting those thoughts in their head. They're wondering how much more. So it's kind of a two-way street. You need to do the negotiation dance to lock them in and lock them in right, and to take any doubt out of their mind because you don't want the deal falling apart later because you jump too fast.
Yeah. How about, and this is something that I try to avoid myself, but it does happen sometimes when you have to renegotiate. So you've negotiated the price, you think you have a good deal, you go and you do your due diligence, and oh shit, there is, I don't know, a sinkhole in the middle of the property. Who knows?
Oops,
There's
I
some
didn't see
problem
that.
with the property
Yeah.
that makes the value less. Generally, sellers aren't going to be like, oh yeah, of course, I'll reduce the price. So how do you approach renegotiating when you do find something that does reduce the value in your mind?
Yeah, that's always uncomfortable, right? You said yes, you shook hands, so to speak, you agreed on a number, you have it under contract. Now you're going back and trying to say, well, things have changed. But you got to go in and explain why things have changed. So usually what I'll do is I'll go back, particularly if I'm wholesaling, I know that no one else wants it at that price, which is a clear sign to me if I was going to buy it to rehab it or buy it to hang on to it as a rental, that it's not good for me either. If I can't convince anyone else, then it's not good for me. So I need to renegotiate it. So I can go back to the person with some confidence and say, look, I've taken it to my team and the other people in my group, and nobody's into it. And so here's what I think is wrong, and I'll point out what the problems are. Now, initially, they're going to be angry at you. They're going to be mad. You agreed on something, they want that. But there's also a strong urge with someone not to change horses midstream.
Mm.
It's almost the devil they know versus the devil they don't know. They'd rather go with you. So you just have to kind of give them a chance to accept that you're changing up the price, and then they'll swallow that pill. But a lot of times I like to do show the work or show the math. I don't know. You remember your math teacher in high school? It always said show the work. Like that way they knew you weren't cheating. You had to show how you actually did the mathematical problem. So I start to do that in these renegotiation scenarios. I'll go and actually show the person the math, say, hey, this is what I really think it's worth. This is how much work would have to be put into it. This is the cost of borrowing that money. This is the cost of fudge factor. And this is the cost of my profit, quite honestly. And I show them what that is so they don't think it's all profit. Because most people go, oh, this is the price it's going to sell for. This is the price you're asking. Must be all profit in between. But come on, we know it's not.
Yeah.
There's expenses.
Yeah, closing costs. I mean, there's tons of costs that jump in there, and I even do that on the commercial side. Is if a seller is kind of being unreasonable with their asking price, I'll send them my due diligence sheet and I'll say, hey man, this is what I'm looking at. These are the numbers that I'm expecting. This is what I expect in my pro forma, so they can really see like, yeah, if they get their asking price, then I'm going to be losing money, and I'm running a business. I can't lose money. So
Lose money, and they
uh,
should understand that, and they get it. So but yeah, no, that's exactly the right thing. Build the case and showing the numbers is like proof of the written word. You kind of see it, you understand. Show them the comps. It's not necessarily the all fixed up or totally, in your case, commercial totally rented out, but as is.
yeah.
These are the actual numbers, the way things are right now on the pro forma, and let's we got to make it better than that.
Yep. Yeah, and I like you said, um, people don't like to change horses midstream. I found that to be true myself. Like once you really start negotiating and getting into the details with a seller, they generally like to stick with you, even if there are other people coming at them. They don't want to redo all this work with somebody else. And so that you said that, it kind of rang a bell in my head. I've seen that in myself too. So let's talk about just wholesaling itself. A lot of people there's pushback when they hear that there's other parties coming in to actually, there's a different LLC buying the property, there's a different name on the closing documents. How do you deal with the fact that you are wholesaling the property?
Yeah. I don't hide the fact, and yet I don't have to go on and on trying to explain it ad nauseum. I mean, most people do a couple of deals in their life. So to try to get into the weeds about how it works, I would explain it this way. Let's say I found a good multi-unit property, and you were going to buy it. I'd walk in, I'd say, hey, this is my partner Gabe. He's going to be handling the management and the renovation of the property, and he's also bringing the money to the table. So today we're closing in Gabe's name.
Makes sense. I like
When
it.
they say, "Oh, nice to meet you, Gabe," that's great, and then they look at the settlement sheet and say, "How much am I making? All my problems solved." They just go back to only caring about themselves. They don't particularly care about that little movement of, "Oh, there's an assignment in there." If they ask it, that assignment is one of the ways we take money out of the deal so we can keep getting more and more, which is 100% true. I'm describing wholesaling. Yeah, we're taking money out of the deal to pay me so I can continually go and find more for you.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree, and it's something that I've run into the past. Is just especially on the smaller property side, if it's a mom and pop owner, they'll see the settlement statement, they'll see an assignment fee, and they'll be like, "Wait a second, what is that?" And I'm just like, I mean, that's the acquisitions fee. That's what
Yeah,
we charge to do, what we're doing, the marketing, the negotiations, all that stuff.
yeah. It's one of the
Um,
ways we take money out to keep the lights on.
yep, exactly. All right, so let's talk about marketing. We are running down the clock, but the last topic I want to broach is marketing, and that's finding the deals. That's the start of the entire process, is going out there, getting in contact with sellers. So, how do you do it, and what's your favorite way to go out there and drum up leads?
I focus on motivated sellers. I know motivated sellers is almost a cliche in this business, but let me define it out this way. They need to sell even more than they want to sell. They need to sell more than they want to sell. So that means that something's gone wrong in their life. There's some sort of problem, some sort of hassle, some sort of issue. And if you focus in on those people, a lot of people's problems in lives are a matter of public record, or they're at the courthouse. They inherit a property, or they're getting divorced, or going into foreclosure, falling behind on things. That's you can find that information and market to them with a message that speaks to that. And then they're already kind of buttered up for the negotiation as it is, because they want their problem solved even more than they care about the exact price. You and I care about the exact price because we're investors, but they want the problem solved first. So we can create a win-win scenario because we solve their problem and they win. We get our price and we win because we're not fighting about the same thing.
Yep, yep. So you look for. It sounds like you pull specific lists with motivation in them. Some
Yes.
Divorce lists.
Yep.
I don't
I,
know. There's
I
tons of
love
them out
direct
there.
mail, and I'll send those list letters, postcards, because I want to speak to them directly.
Okay, so direct mail, that's your main form of marketing, is just sending out mailers.
Yes.
Cool. All right. Direct mail, I've had some good results with direct mail. It can get expensive, especially if you're doing multiple mailers per address. Do you generally just send out one, or do you do multiple touch points?
Oh, there's a repetition process to it. So it's multiple, depending on the list. Sometimes it's monthly, sometimes it's quarterly. Couple scenarios, I have to go weekly. If if the state has a fast foreclosure process, I have to go
Mm-hmm.
weekly for a while. So I tweak that repetition cycle to match how fast things need to be done. And the marketing is all about the repetition. If you
Yeah.
don't do the repetition, you're not going to get the results.
Yep. It's that 7 touch point thing. You got to get in front of people 7 times before they actually connect with you.
Yeah, and then they'll swear they've never heard from you before, but you'll know it's just, but for whatever reason, that seventh time is magic.
Yep. All right, man. That does wrap it up for this first section. It's time for the quick question round. Are you ready?
Shoot.
Let's do it. Starts with books or any form of education. Give me 2 recommendations: one for general life wisdom, one for real estate.
Let's see. Let me go real estate first. I love Roger Dawson's stuff on negotiation. Probably trained with him 20 years ago. I mean, I teach a lot of negotiation, but I gotta say my core is from Roger. It's fantastic. a book on life and life issues, I'm going to go a little bit different. I would read anything written by Winston Churchill.
Oh, nice.
I know that's not business specific, but I could make an argument it's very business related.
No, yeah, general life wisdom doesn't have to be business. But Winston Churchill, that's really good. Do you have a specific piece of literature that he wrote or anything in
Uh,
mind?
yeah, well, there's a 6 volume set on the entire Second World War, so that'll only take you a year to read. But if you start to dig in down that line, maybe you don't have to go as crazy about it as I do. But he's actually got a good book on quotes and wisdom and
Mm,
little stories that quip onto to things you find interesting. I think it's called like The Life and Thoughts of Winston Churchill. Can't remember the exact title.
nice. Yeah, I love those kind of books. The ones that just kind of have like, I call them toilet books because you can sit on the
Yes.
toilet and just read a couple quotes and call it good. Um, yeah, that's great. I'll have to check that one out. All right, next question is for your younger self. So let's go back to the Tom who had no experience in real estate. He still was under that debt, however many years ago that was. Go back to him, look him in the eye, give him one piece of advice moving forward.
Stop pissing your money away and start learning how to negotiate.
There you go. I love it. All right, next question is about your business. The first three positions we hire form the foundation of our business. So, what were they, and would you do it differently if you did it again today?
Interesting. I keep a very lean operation. I mean, my business is it's me, my wife, and a bunch of virtual assistants that are contractors.
Okay.
So I don't personally want any employees
Mm-hmm.
because I don't want the burden. I talk to a lot of business owners, and the number one thing that seems to drive them crazy are employees. So I've always avoided it. I would get some sort of personal assistant. It's easy with a virtual admin of some sort that can help lift the burden. Certainly, if you can't keep up on the technical stuff, and I mean, I used to be good at it, but I guess my skills are fading as tech keeps changing. So I made sure I hired a tech team as well. So it's again virtual assistants, but tech focused on that.
Cool. Yeah, VA is a that's the first one I always recommend. Get yourself a VA. It doesn't. I mean, they can just be a generalist, just some kind of VA admin, but that will definitely cut down your time a lot.
Huge.
So love that. Next one is about the U.S. It's a big place, a lot of opportunity out there. Give me one metro you're most excited about investing in today.
One metro area, Tampa, Sarasota, kind of west
Okay.
coast of Florida.
Yep.
I'm excited about the numbers. I see the patterns. I live in that area now for the last 2+ years. Previously, I was in Washington, D.C. for 24 years, and I'm seeing the same kind of pattern happening now that I saw years ago in D.C. when there was a massive increase. So if you're buying also for the long term appreciation and kind of escalation of everything, I think that's a great market.
Yep. Yeah, I've heard Tampa, and I've also heard what's that other big metro up there? Jacksonville in
Yes,
Florida is doing really good. So great metros to be focusing on. All right, next question. We've actually already asked. The question is your favorite way to find good deals. You already mentioned is
direct
direct
mail.
mail.
Yeah.
Do you have a second favorite, or is direct mail your one and only, your true love when it comes to finding
Oh
good
no,
deals
I've
out there?
got a few I use. My second favorite is driving for deals.
Oh,
Get
okay,
out there,
interesting.
drive for deals.
Yeah,
Look around. You can tell a rundown, dilapidated house from a nice one, and a rundown, dilapidated house is a problem in and of itself, and probably has an owner with a personal problem as well.
yeah, yeah. And there's some good apps out there. On the single family side. I haven't used them, but people have told me about them where you can just drive by, take a picture of a house, and the app will send a mailer from like just from the picture. It'll
Yep,
send a
I
mailer to that
use
house.
I use Deal Machine for that exact purpose. It revolutionized my kind of old-fashioned handwritten way of doing it, and it's terrific.
It's called Deal Machine is the app.
Deal Machine, yeah.
Huh, that's pretty cool. Yeah, I could see that being useful just to have on your phone, just because you're driving around all the time. And I always drive by these houses. The number one thing that I always look for is just the tarp on the roof. I'm like, okay, that's for sure.
Clear
We're
sign.
looking. Yeah, exactly. All right, next question is mentors. None of us are islands. We all stand on the shoulders of giants. So give me one mentor who has contributed significantly to your career today.
I'll push that back to Roger Dawson again.
Cool.
Negotiation wise, his trainings, his writings, his audios were revolutionary for me. And like I say, I've come, they're at that center core of how I teach negotiation.
Cool. Roger Dawson. How do you spell his last name?
Dawson, Dawson.
Roger Dawson.
Roger
Oh,
with
okay,
just a
cool.
G. Yeah,
Yeah, haven't heard of him yet. That's
he's retired.
Roger Dawson. The secrets of and power of negotiating. Love it.
Yeah, it's good stuff. And I mean, I wouldn't be a great marketer if I didn't toot my own horn and my own negotiation stuff. But it's like I say, it's based on Roger, and now with 20 plus years experience on top of it.
There you go. That leads us to the second to last question. This is about your gifts. We are all gifted with gifts that we uniquely provide this world. So, what is your Superman strength?
Gotcha. My Superman strength is negotiating deals down, getting prices low, getting people to say yes at lower prices than you thought possible.
That is a skill that all of us want to have. So I
Makes all the difference in the world.
exactly. And that leads us to our last question. This is for the listeners. I'm sure people want to reach out, get in contact with you, learn how to do the negotiating that you do. What is the best way for people to reach you?
Hit my website. It's tomzeeb.com, TOM, Z as in zebra, B as in boy.com. And if you put a / and the word trifecta, I'll teach you my top 3 negotiation skills. I call them the negotiation trifecta. I use them in pretty much every negotiation, gets the ball rolling and starts getting the price down as you go. So tomzeeb.com/trifecta. And since we talked about marketing a lot as well, I've got another gift for you. If you put it tomzeeb.com/deal flow, DEALFLOW, there's a guide on 5 different ways I use to get better at marketing and start getting motivated. So I was contacting you.
Cool. I love it. That is tomzeeb.com. And you got the two pages there, Deal Flow and Trifecta. I will put those links in the show notes. So if you guys want to reach out to Tom, just click a little more in the description. It'll pull down that full description. In there, you can find Tom's links. All right, man. That wraps it up. Thank you very much for hopping on the show.
Thanks, Gabe. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. For everybody who's here with us today, thank you guys for showing up. You are the reason we do this. So if you guys have any questions whatsoever, reach out to me, Gabe at therealestateinvestingclub.com. And if you guys want to support the show, all we ask is you give us a like, subscribe, share, all that jazz. Other than that, hope you guys have a great week. Keep rocking real estate, and I look forward to seeing you on the next episode.